The political discourse of this Lok Sabha election has been most vituperative, to say the least, with both sides abusing and mudslinging each other. Thanks for joining us. I'm Harsha Subramaniam. And today, the question we're asking is, has the Election Commission done enough to enforce the Model Code of Conduct, both in letter and in spirit? Joining us are two former election commissioners, chief election commissioners at that, O.P. Rawat and T.S. Krishnamurthy. Gentlemen, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Mr. Krishnamurthy, I'll begin this conversation with you. There has been a perception that the Election Commission has been partisan and cowed down by political pressures. Is that perception justified?
The Election Commission has always been subject to such criticism in every election. We have had number of complaints right from the start of the election, and whenever a decision is taken which is not favorable to them, people will say that it is partisan and so on. But as far as this year is concerned, I think all parties seem to be equally guilty of violating the model code. And Election Commission is too small an organization to deal with too many complaints received like this. So it is quite likely that some people are aggrieved, that it is quite likely that they have not got the decision that they expected.
Right.
But I think we have to believe the constitutional authority goes by certain norms. It has certain reasons for taking decisions. But whether they have taken the decision quickly or whether they have given a reason or speaking order and all that, that may be debatable. But the question is, we have to trust our constitutional authority.
Point taken, Mr. Krishnamurthy. Mr. Rawat, same question to you. Somehow the perception is that that they have not been quick in taking decisions, that they've been seen as being cowed down by political pressures. How do you think the Election Commission has behaved through this course of these elections?
I would largely agree to Mr. T.S. Krishnamurthy's view, however, with slight difference that in case the complaints of 1st April, 2nd April or 4th April could have been disposed of within reasonable time, say just 2 days, 3 days, then the impact would have been very different. When it took about 25, 26 days, it really created a different impression. And that should have been avoided.
Okay. So
another thing is transparency.
Sure. So the point you're making,
whatever order is passed on anything, one has to bring those things, those facts in public domain immediately.
Okay, timeliness and transparency are the 2 points that you're making, Mr. Rawat. To be fair, in the Election Commission's defense, it has imposed curbs on hate speech by politicians across party lines. For example, it curbed campaigning of Yogi Adityanath, Mayawati, Pragya Thakur, Azam Khan, to name a few, and these are across party lines. The perception really has been built because is that they've been soft on the Prime Minister, on the BJP President and the sitting government. Have you found its actions to be wanting? Mr. Rawat?
Actually, Election Commission, sorry, is it for Mr. Krishnamurthy?
No, it's for you, Mr. Rawat.
Okay. Actually, Election Commission has been doing excellent work. In fact, I was reading about Nizamabad, the story that 185 candidates and they could in time arrange for M3 EVMs and conduct the poll. And even other restrictions imposed on violations of Model Code of Conduct. In these particular cases, which are now becoming or snowballing into something which is being lapped up by media to punch the Election Commission, it appears that a little better could have been done.
Okay. Mr. Krishnamurthy, what has been the view of election commissions on sitting governments? They need to be treated like any other political campaigner, isn't it? Now, the key question I have is, politicians don't seem to take the violations of model code very seriously because no stringent action is taken. Is that the crux of the issue?
No stringent action is taken. What I would say is the election commission actually tries to implement the model code of conduct. The model code of conduct is not a law, and it has certain deficiencies. The words are debatable. For example, personal attacks. And then, for example, whether you are using the army or not. They're all debatable issues. Unfortunately, there is no clarity on such matters, and people can have different perceptions. But Election Commission as a constitutional authority has certainly owed it to the people that what the decision they take, they pass a speaking order, they give reasons for it, and indicate that they have no bias at all. The second point I want to make mention is that Election Commission is too small an organization, and it has its own limitations. apart from the need for electoral reforms, which have been the cry for so many years, and Election Commission has been writing from time to time, no party seems to be serious on bringing about these reforms. And unless and until there is seriousness among the political parties, which unfortunately is the weakest link in our democracy,
right,
I think this kind of situation will increase because the number of voters will increase, the number of parties will increase, and the number of hatred and violence cases will also increase.
Point taken again. Mr. Rawat, what happens when the commission is faced with such issues? Well, there have been reports that one commissioner dissented in the cases against the Prime Minister. How does the commission deal with such situation? Is there a set process already in place?
Actually, in any matter where there is difference of opinion, Section 10 of the related act applies, and the majority decision that prevails. But in this particular case, since the dissent, the majority view, nothing has been brought into public domain. So at times it appears that there is a smoke without fire. Whether there is any dissent, nobody knows. What is the dissent? Nobody knows. So unless all facts are in public domain, we are just talking in the air.
I have one final round of questioning, gentlemen, and since we have both the election commissioners here, or the former election commissioners here, and this is about the considerable debate that we've seen over the use of electronic voting machines. Now they're also using VVPATs. Now political parties wanted random physical verification of 50% of the booths in each constituency using the voter verified paper audit or the VVPAT. The Supreme Court rejected that proposal. The Election Commission believes that the VVPAT slips from one EVM in every constituency is good enough. Now we have seen political parties move a review petition to the Supreme Court. My question to both you gentlemen, and perhaps Mr. Rawat, you can go first, is the existing system proposed by the Election Commission foolproof? That is, one VVPAT or one EVM constituency being checked, is that good enough?
Actually, Election Commission had given the responsibility to suggest a sample for 99.99% reliability to Indian Statistical Institute, which is a premier institute of the country.
Right.
And they had come up with a report that this sample which is being used, 4,120 for the national election, is much higher than whatever is required. What was proposed by them was 479. And therefore, Election Commission gave them certain more aspects about this to deliberate and then submit a final report. After that, I was not there in Election Commission, but then the matter went to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court, after viewing all reports, after hearing from ISI and all those things, they came up with this 5 polling stations in every legislative assembly constituency. I think that should satisfy. But if there is any doubt or suspicion in the mind of anyone, then it devolves on the Election Commission to bring trust, to bring their faith, because ultimately Election Commission is working for the faith and confidence of all the stakeholders.
Last word with you, Mr. Krishnamurthy, and same question really. Is this foolproof what the Election Commission is proposing? And as Mr. Rawat says, does it maintain the confidence of the system?
I have always been saying that EVMs by themselves are most credible, and there is no doubt that it cannot be manipulated. But even so, the political parties wanted some change. They have got the VVPAT. Now they have said they want 50%. I am telling you that if the commission agrees for 50%, they will say we want 100%. So it's very unfortunate that the political parties are not respecting the decision given by the Supreme Court. They want the Supreme Court to review it. Maybe the Supreme Court will review it. And we should learn, the political parties should learn to accept the verdict of the Supreme Court. And if they have any grievance, they can go back. But they cannot be indulging in smearing campaign that, electronic voting machines can be manipulated. And it is very unfair on their part, because when once they come to power or when once they get elected, they will not have any grievance against the machines. But when once they lose, the political parties start complaining. This has been the theme for the past maybe 2004 when I was first time we introduced for parliamentary elections. This has been the theme. We have been seeing it. It's very unfortunate that the political parties are not showing more maturity, more responsibility in such matters.
Gentlemen, we'll leave it there. Many thanks indeed for joining us. T.S. Krishnamurthy, Mr. O.P. Rawat, many thanks indeed for joining us
Thank
on
you.
Bloomberg Quint.
Thank you. Thank
If you
you
have
very
been,
much.
thank you so much for watching.